for coming through the cold for some poetry, and thank you, Bob, for inviting me. And thank you to my fellow readers as well. I'm glad to join a chorus. So I'll just, read probably for about, I'm going to set a timer for 17 minutes, because that feels like a nice time. Okay.
I'm just remembering to silence my phone, so for anybody else who
Oh, yeah.
I forgot. So.
It taps me on the shoulder what you said, foaming and dispersing wave to keep me at a tilt. Gray gulls scatter the sightline, residue of maps, a fixed point feeding. Bony hollowed letters sent out for a change of species, oiling themselves into the sun, techniques only the diver knows. To sneak, to worship, take 7. Wow, my P's are really coming across here. So much treading water, Tim's rendition of the siren. It slips my mind to think of crab coaxed from the cove. Noli me tangerine, midwinter leaking from the branches. Today the light sees such a non-seeing that everything sends me to stitches. Photo of David who threaded his lips, volition, an almost drowned out song that goes, man thank the hatchet, man thank the mountain, amber kettle door snow once the tongue is 2 and 2, bent chords, flower spokes in ruins you said, of dreaming of, playing hidden, rank the pits. And then, so that's some like fragmented lyric stuff, and we're gonna switch to prose, which I used to think was a red flag when poets would say that at readings, but here I am. So my friend who's a painter asked me to write a paragraph, so I ended up writing this paragraph about 3 artists that I really like, and it doesn't really matter if you're not familiar with their work, just pretend it's kind of like you're just listening into some gossip about these artists who are already dead. But they were all friends with each other, and they all slept with each other too. So here's the paragraph that I wrote. It's longish. I'm in my friend's kitchen picturing Paul Thek standing on the shore as he paints the water. Though I don't know if Thek ever painted near water, it makes sense for me to picture him like this, each of us stalling for time. Quiet child pebbles and a bit of cockle ground to chalk, no need for surface support for knowledge until the stones start leaking deep blue paint. His final series of paintings feature vivid blue acrylics brushed over gesso and delicate newspaper, obscuring the text of the newspaper except for the edges. Lone figures, diagrammatic archetypes, and fragmentary messages are then painted over the blue. Our Mother, Untitled, The Face of God, Puddle. Paul's choice of newspaper as a substrate remains a problem for conservators. For the found object artist, the essence of an object is revealed in the process of becoming trash. Trash gives you something to work with. Paul's later works favor crude, childlike renderings, although his friends say he was an expert draftsman. In his final exhibition, before his death of AIDS in 1988, he hung these blue newspaper paintings at child's eye level. Now that I'm home from my friend's apartment, I can turn to the majestic photograph of Paul Thek taken by his friend and lover, Peter Hajar, who also photographed David Yonarovitz, another queer artist from before I was born who I often picture near the water. David spoke his fears and dreams into a tape recorder, interfering with the pre-invented line between the water and the sky. As I picture him, he is almost always cruising the abandoned piers on the Hudson River in the 1970s and 80s. David described these piers with great erotic and cartographical specificity in Close to the Knives and the Waterfront Journals. Quote, sometimes it's like long ago when words were slow and we were meeting beneath faraway rivers. While Peter searched for stillness in his portraits, David's eyes are shaky cameras swimming through abandoned warehouses, painting the walls and looking for sex, lost in the shadow of forward motion. I know Paul Tech and David Yonarovitz were friends who met through Peter, but how often did they catch sight of each other on the piers? Their weird experiments in distortion and liturgy foaming up from under the slats through which float so many eyes, fishmen in excelsis. David and Paul were more invested in the grit and improvisation of process than in the so-called finished work of art. Peter's photographs of David and Paul suggest a subterranean relation between the three, entangled in the gaze of Peter. David's huge hand covers most of his face as though in exhaustion or shyness, so I'm first taken by the clarity and sexiness of his collarbones. Half of Paul's face and torso is shadowed, which draws out the tensile muscles twisting in his neck. These photographs circulate a raw source sneaking between surfaces with each recursive dip into the dark room. A lone paragraph could be a shore, or at least it's shoring up against the silence that surrounds it. Add to that a photograph or two. The silence gains more grain and texture. It becomes uneven. Maybe I could dip my hands into it, as in Paul's painting of a diver made in 1981. Little diver, where have I seen you before? Your hands are less clear by their dip in the painted sea. Paul's last works, layered blue acrylic gessoed newspaper, rushing back, it doesn't let me rest, with its calming shock of blue so interrupted, distortion of the diver's cock directed towards the depths, as all around him play the parts of lights on waters. He's always midway through the dive, so he's not quite with me, but outside from where I crouch, almost unentirely a child. Okay, so that's the paragraph. And then some of these poems mention the artist that I was just talking about in that paragraph, a couple of these. Of more angles than a note can fold, so let the tide and let the tide be argument enough. Even in the city, swelling so far beyond our chatter, I would walk the alley's flooded plan for one contiguous line, where every name that David painted starts to dribble. Could I follow at the verge of vision, under with the heron, whose burning eyes draw out debris, whose dive unfossilized the song beneath the storm, what smears these drafts of spiral-bound and leather, so softened they're ordained for the dissolving, my bountiful. Saying oh, so I can peel it off and paste it on the deconstructed tree line, silver/liver of sulfur on canvas, paper on paper, host scraps leveled at the act of scavenge, compiled not as offering but as breach of local law, mouth in the city the rain lips over, sound in the tree pasted out on the wall, another atomically unstable yes, evaporative footwork the sun twists in a circle. With my first sight I cut what's been blended together, charcoal of deer in the shadow he laps from. With my second sight I track these nubs of narrative dragging along grain, find not for no one, buried till I pocket what's been thrown away. Talisman and Canyon, Tech and Yonarovitz, two friends bound to their eclectic spines. Tindered by their unfinalities, they press their ears against the floor. With a length of rope between them, stone and wood become the same. Slow worm always bowing when I bow to you, I smell the page as clear as driftwood. They won't be lost if listened to. Baselines wash away each sect, and every surface rubs uneven. That one's kind of chaotic. That was the more chaotic of my poems. Like, what's going on with that one? Okay. I'll do this one. Let's see. I'll do this one. It's called Fear of Evolution, and it's written to David Yonarovitz. so it's addressed to him. And I had found this abandoned house in the middle of the woods, and he liked abandoned structures, so I was thinking of him, and I started this poem in this house that I was sort of haunting. It's called Fear of Evolution. I write to you from one abandoned structure to another. The desk tips in a nest of rust, its colors, scraps of metal and of paper. The structure and its heap of scraps is moving, bowing. The blown apart refrigerator, the old bike's quiet spokes, the rust it stains and shifts, maps the gaps in sequence by a flux of light that slides across my stomach and, as you would have it, up behind my eyes. Snow appears 5 times in quick procession, blowing bidden through the cracks. It piles up so I can press my face into it as into the bed of a beautiful meteor. This is where I wait until the shapes lose all their forms except for touch and knowledge, turning over larger gaps of contact. Then you slip my mind entirely. When I stop looking for you, your carbon copy starts to brighten, first at its edges, like setting a strip of celluloid on fire, then to swallow. Sleep sucks me in an extreme tide this place is known for, stealing the shores in our recursive hours, severing the shells from their delicious brains. When I come back, something trickles from the mountain to the door. The hinge has been pried slightly open at an angle, like the spine of an atlas, so everything is welcome. You cruise along the softened creases of the maps, rushing patient back to sight. You are waiting at the edge of the pier for the bone shop to open. You are painting the insides of empty warehouses to burn yourself away from any pre-invented world. Barbed wire curls in on itself, reversing its function. Tiny petaled yellow flowers multiply each morning. A variation in the smell of smoke is an index of your rage. An animal mirage is flitting in the aperture of your eye, a wing of blood from the flank of a bull. You want to live, and then forget the earth again. Your cigarette falls from the horizon's hip, dipping back into the shadow of a boy. It's dark again. The bicycle sinks into the floor. The structure creaks in base alignment with the trees. Lichen makes a ruffled grammar on the stones the others carry here. They come and go with messages. Quote, I don't know if I'm ready to know yet. Quote, fear of evolution. Quote, nameless men lay blooming. Quote, silence through economics. Quote, for the evening only, I couldn't decide if we were men or women. Do men become nameless at the moment of kneeling, dredging out their faces from the tides, the mirrors you hunted and parted a while? If birth breaks numbers, it's the last day of the year for me. Birch bark peels off overnight. Lines are etched along its grain, like hesitations in a telegram. In the morning, I will notate these lines with pieces from your photographs, but just the ones that leak through sight like ink through paper. I will cut out these scraps across the length of each recording, the negatives you sift into the eyesight of your friend, your half of what was otherwise discarded. Okay. Now I can move away from just my own work, which is fun for me, because sometimes it can be a little, like, you know, locked box. I want them to be open, but if you hear yourself enough, you know. So these are collaborative poems that I've written with my friends, which I have a lot of fun with. And yeah, my friends, when I write poems with them, they kind of save me from some of my poetic tendencies / emotional tendencies. So I'm going to read a couple from this series that I really like that I wrote with my friend Moriana. These poems are special to me. So we were just like chain smoking one night, and then we wrote these poems on my typewriter. It was a sacred night. So And we would switch off lines. So like, yeah, so it's like a dialogue. Put down your scales, a spine is calling. To meet me at the intersection of water and water, persona is an eternity who swims within. Not enough error to bring us back cackling. It's conversation. Time is not a day, what day is it? Forever still, I brushed against my softening to each gray hair, hours as we own them, not half-eaten, brine my bride, bottled, manufactured by tomorrow. We cannot afford nostalgia, diorama mindset, in for the long run, my reflection a font in for a window, dense enough to stall corrosion, your fish leaps from door to door. Whatever that means. And then this is the last one we wrote. Bordering some belief, not quite laundry, wired yet windy, yet I left distance behind for a belief in it. I should have fastened this intermittent past, taut to the clothesline, hot breeze perspective, my collar oracle of some bone rising from the mud, it speaks beside me. I failed to match the rhythm of a proper holding, hospital corners, a saying I said and forgot. It had to do with pulling, wave from wave, the heaviest mammal. A part of us floats, a unit we call frame, pacing in the kitchen. I see yours. And then this one I wrote with my friend Ale, and it was right as I was about to move. And we'd written so many failed poems up till this point, and then I think this one clicked somehow. I want pictures. Frame each frame. You lie with your back to the bridge, counting depths. You smell like citronella. Where did you get that errant baptism? My place so surely slatted, as when the cat went missing from my fear, and then came back. And then I'll end by reciting a poem that I had nothing to do with, but that I love. And I feel like even though the holidays are over, I still feel the reverb of them, so pretend it's Christmas. And yeah, that might be triggering for some of you, but this poem addresses that. It's by one of my favorite poets, Fanny Howe, and it's called Veteran. I don't believe in ashes, some of the others do. I don't believe in better or best, some of the others do. I don't believe in 1,000 flowers, or the first robin of the year, or statues made of dust. Some of the others do. I don't believe in seeking sheet music by Boston Common on a snowy day. Don't believe in the lighting of malls seasonably. When I'm sleeping, I don't believe in time as we own it, though some of the others might. Sad lace on green, veterans stamping the leafy snow. I don't believe in holidays, long-lasting and artificial. I don't believe in starlings of crenellated wings. I don't believe in berries, red and orange, hanging from thread-like twigs. I don't believe in the light on the river moving with it, or the green bulbs hanging from the elms. Outdoors, indoors, I don't believe in a gridlock of ripples or the deep walls people live inside. Some of the others believe in food and drink and perfume. I don't. And I don't believe in shut-in time for those who committed a crime of passion. Like a sweetheart of the iceberg or wings lost at sea, the wind is what I believe in, the one that moves around each form. All right, that's me. That's Fanny. That's Fanny. That wasn't me. It's too good. Thank you, everyone.